Hey guys, thanks for joining. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. We're going to be highlighting the CPT book, but I'll take any questions now that you guys might have about, medical coding in general or about the CPC exam. Any questions you guys might have, I can take questions now and then again at about 8:15 and then again towards the end of the live, the last couple of minutes. So if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Thanks for joining, guys. Okay, now remember, if you're getting ready to take the CPC exam, it's 100 questions and you have 4 hours. And it's multiple choice questions. Okay, there are no fill in the blank questions. And you can have your CPT book, your ICD-10 book, and your HCPCS book. Okay, someone just asked me a question about the tabs. Yeah, these are the tabs that I have on my books. Okay, I sell them in the TikTok shop. Okay, I make and sell them. They're double-sided. Okay, and you can have your book tabbed for the CPC exam. Okay, someone said, any tips for the exams? I would say for the exam, you really have to learn test-taking techniques and, learn the process of elimination to get the correct answer. Because if you try to go through the test and, go through the whole process of, finding the codes like how you would in real life, you're going to probably run out of time because you only have about 2 minutes and 40 seconds per question. So you really do need to practice test-taking techniques. And, I do have a mini course where I teach that. Okay, that's on my website. And I also have subscription videos that I do here on TikTok where I go over that as well. Okay, if you don't want to, join any of those, I would recommend, taking the practice tests that you can purchase from AAPC. And, just the more practice you have going through the questions and just, getting familiar with the types of questions that they're going to ask you, the better you will do. I also recommend tabbing your books and writing notes in your book and highlighting the book. Okay, someone asked, where can I take a course? Okay, there's lots of different places you could look into. The only thing that is really important is make sure that it prepares you to take a certification from either AAPC or AHIMA. Okay, those are the only two organizations where employers accept the credentials. Okay, there's other programs out there that prepare you for certifications that employers do not accept. Okay, so make sure you go for a certification from either AAPC or AHIMA. Okay, my certifications are from AAPC. I have the CPC, the COC, and the approved instructor certification. Okay, I always recommend to start out with the CPC because it's from AAPC, and it also is, it's not a specialty certification, but it's the general one where you can code anything with that. Okay, most employers accept the CPC. Okay, I teach the program from AAPC, so obviously I recommend you take a look at my course, but there's others out there. Okay, you could look at your community college, see what programs are out there and find one that is the best course for you. The person said, do you have to take a coding course? I highly, highly recommend it. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who've learned coding on their own, but I think it would be really difficult. Okay, it would be difficult to learn on your own. Okay. I'll take one more question and then we'll get started with the highlighting. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Does healthcare experience help? I would say yes. Any experience that you have, in the field, even if it is not exactly, coding, will help you. Okay, there's positions out there such as like working as a biller, or someone who works denials, or even a scheduler position. Anything that you work with codes will help you get into coding. Another question, Desiree says, can I take your course and become certified? Yes, you can take my course, and then once you're finished, you would take the CPC exam from AAPC. How hard is it to get a job after you're certified? It can be difficult. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I tell my students this, that it can be difficult just because it's medical coding's not really entry level. I mean, you can get a job without experience. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. So that's why I recommend to, anyone who's in my course, or anyone looking at my course, or anyone interested in getting into coding really, is that you might have to work up to it a little bit. You might have to start out in a different position in the revenue cycle and work your way into a coding position. Okay, but like I said, it's not impossible. Okay, there are people who get a job right away. It really depends, depends what kind of places you're applying to also. If you're applying to work at a, there might be a lot of hospitals near you where you live, there might be more positions available. There's lots of different factors that go into it. Okay. All right, so we're going to get started. I will take more questions at about 8:15. Okay, I'm going to start where we left off last week, which was the respiratory system, I think. We're almost finished with this section. Okay, I am on page 224. Okay. Now, this is just the way that I highlight my book, okay? If you find a way that works better for you, definitely do that. Okay, my way is not is not the only way. Okay, this is just the way that I do it, the way that I think makes the most sense to me, and this is the way that I also teach students in my coding course how to highlight the book. All right, so I'm on page 224, and I have my highlighter. Okay, it can be, doesn't have to be anything fancy, just plain old highlighter. And I'm just going to highlight the first couple of words of each main code. Okay, so anything that's indented, okay, I'm not going to highlight. I'm only highlighting the main codes. First couple of words. Okay, and then I go back and I link the codes together that go together. So I'm looking at code 32503, and I'm just going to draw a line like that and kind of link them together. So 32504, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that code is indented. Okay, that's not a full code. So I just drew this line here to kind of link it with the code above it. All right, that just helps me, see what codes, see what codes go together. Okay, looking at 32556, just link it with, well, you don't want to do it like that. You either want to go in front of the code or behind it. Okay, and then I link it with 32557. All right. And then the last thing that I do is I go back and I circle what is in parentheses. Okay, the parentheses just give more directions. Sometimes it talks about modifiers. Like this one, it says report 32506 only in conjunction with 32505. So, that's just giving you more information. So that's why I like to circle those so I don't forget to, to look at those instructions. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Again, if you find a way that you like to do better, then, do that. Okay, you're allowed to have notes in your book for the CPC exam. You're allowed to highlight like this. You're allowed to have tabs. Okay, so anything you could do to help you, get through the exam without running out of time, you should do. Okay, because you have 4 hours to answer 100 questions. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that. That's what the page looks like. Okay, sometimes people ask, does it bleed through to the other side? And it does not. Okay, I mean, I guess you can see the pen mark a little bit, but not, you really have to be staring to see that. And the highlighter does not go through. Okay, that was page 224. Okay, now I'm on page 225. Okay. Again, the first step is just highlighting the first couple of words of each main code. Okay, and then you go back and link any codes together if it's indented with the code above it. Okay, see, 32562 is indented, so I just link it with the code above it to get the full code description. All right. Okay, and then I go back and just circle anything that's in parentheses. Okay, because it gives you more directions. So right here it says, do not report 32608 more than once per lung. Okay, so it's just telling you more information about the code. Okay, so that's that page. And then, this is the way that I recommend highlighting the book. Now, you don't have to, I recommend that my students do this as they're going through the course. I don't recommend that they wait till the end, to go back and do this, because I feel like, not that you can't do that, but it would be overwhelming if you did, because there's just a lot of information in the book here. So if you could take a little time every day, maybe after you're, working on your coding course or whatever, just take some time just to highlight whatever, section you're working on for CPT at that time. All right, so now I'm on page 226. Okay, so there's only one main code here, 32650. Everything else is indented. Okay, so I don't know why I have that highlighted, but that really should be a circle. Okay. But everything else here, these are all indented, so I really wouldn't highlight any of that. Okay, now I would just circle what's in parentheses. Okay, remember, if there's a plus sign in front of the code, those are add-on codes. Okay, an add-on code cannot be coded by itself. Okay, it has to go with another code. Okay, again, just circling what's in parentheses. Okay, here it talks about modifiers. To report bilateral procedure, report 32666 with modifier 50. Okay, I'll just show you guys where the modifiers are. Okay, you can find them in 2 places in the CPT book. If you go to the back of the front cover, okay, this is the front cover of the book. Right on the back of that, you will find the modifiers and a short description. Okay, it's not a full description, but it has all of the CPT modifiers and also some of the HCPCS modifiers, but not all of the HCPCS, just some of them. Okay, so that's one spot you can find the modifiers, and to get the full description, they are in the back of the book. Appendix A. All right, and that is page 967. Okay, and here you get the full description of the modifiers. All right, so again, you don't have to memorize anything, but you do need to be familiar with where everything is in the book. Some of the questions on the exam will have to do with modifiers. So you want to make sure you know where to find, that information so you can answer the question. All right. Let me just go back to where I was. I was on page 225. Okay. And just circling what's in parentheses still. All right, so I think that's it for that page. Okay, I will do one more page and then I will take some questions again. Okay, so now I'm on page 227. All right, nothing too much on this page to highlight. Okay, now the book also has like paragraphs on some of the pages. Make sure you take time to just read those. Okay, if you want, you can highlight things in there, but just make sure you don't skip over these because it does sometimes give more directions. Okay, again, circling what's in parentheses. Okay, I guess that's it for that. All right. I will take questions now for a couple minutes. Okay, this is a good question. Do you have to deal with people with medical coding? Not that much. If you're talking about the general public, then I've never had a job where I've had to deal with patients or the general public or anything like that. You might have to talk to doctors sometimes, depending on where you work. You'll have to deal with coworkers. Okay, even if you work from home, you probably still will have to, go to meetings and, you'll have other people that you're working with, but it's not, you generally do not have to deal with, patient questions or answering the phones or things like that if you're in a regular coding position. So it's definitely good for people who are, introverted, who really don't want to talk to people that much. If you're someone who's like that, if you're someone who likes researching and figuring things out, you probably would like medical coding. And also if you have a general interest in, the medical field, but you don't want to, directly work with patients, okay, this is a good job for you, because it's an office job. All right. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, it could be about medical coding in general. Okay, this is a good question. Will paper and pencil be allowed during the exam? And the answer to that is no. Okay, they used to allow it because the test used to be on paper, but now it is all on the computer. Okay, so you're allowed your 3 coding books, and that is it. No pencil and paper. Okay, Amy says, how long have you been coding? Okay, so I've been in the field since 2014. Okay, it was a career change for me. All right, before that, I used to be a teacher. I used to work, in the elementary schools. It feels like a different lifetime, but I used to work with the 5th grade. And then I changed into coding. And I've been in it for about 10 years. Before I got into teaching coding, which is what I do now. Before that, I used to code and audit radiology. So radiology is definitely my favorite. Are the questions similar to the practice test from AAPC? So I think you're asking, are the CPC exams similar questions to the practice test? And I would say yes. I would say yes, they are. Some questions are more difficult than others, but I think the practice exams are good. Next question, is the pay worth it? I think it is. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be a little biased because it's my field, but it depends what you're coding and how long you've been in it. Okay, it's just like anything else. You might start off not making as much as you would like, but the longer you stay in it, the more money you make. So I definitely think it's worth it. But again, you got to do your own research. I would recommend looking at, do a job search in your area and see what the pay is, because it could vary. See how much coders make around you. Okay, thanks for joining, guys. Does anyone else have any questions before we get back to highlighting the book? Where else can we take practice quizzes besides AAPC? Okay, well, there's a couple different places, really. If you don't want the practice questions from AAPC, I do have an exam strategy workshop that I have on my website where there are 210 practice coding questions, and you also learn test taking techniques. I think there's 7 or 8 videos that I have that goes over the whole process of elimination, and then there's 210 practice coding questions. Okay, so I offer that. I know AAPC has it. I'm not really sure what else is out there. I mean, you could search and see what comes up, but I don't have a specific one that I recommend now unless it's AAPC. Another question, do you live where you do coding? I think your question is. I mean, it depends where you work. I mean, if you're asking me specifically, did I code for places near me? I used to work for a small consulting company, and we had clients from everywhere, all over the US. So not necessarily, you don't have to live where, you might be coding for places that are far away from you. Okay. Oh, I didn't understand your question. I was asking you to give examples of coding scenarios. Okay, gotcha. I do that in my subscription lives. Okay, I have subscription only lives where I go over examples of coding scenarios. Okay, I don't really do that on these lives. This live is just highlighting the CPT book. All right. So I will take one more question, and then we'll get back to highlighting the book. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, last question. Are surgeries coded based on operative reports? Yes. Yes, you would code surgeries based on those reports. Okay. All right, so we're going to get back to highlighting the book, and then I will take questions one more time in about 10 minutes. All right? So we're almost finished with this chapter. I'm on page 228. Okay, again, I'm just highlighting the first couple of words of the main codes here. Okay, also the book does give, directions here. Okay, these are for lung transplant. Okay, it does give more information, so you could highlight these terms as well. Okay, then I go back and just link any codes together. If there's an indented code, I link it with the code above it to get the full code description. Okay, and then I go back and circle what's in parentheses. Okay, now code 32994, it has the like hashtag sign in front of it. Okay, that means that that code is not in order. Okay, the CPT book, for, I'm not sure why they do this, but they put codes not in the right order sometimes, and it will tell you that right in the book. So if you see a code that's in red, 32994, it says code is out of numerical sequence, C32997 to 32999. Okay, that means that that is where that code is. So they just have it in a different place. So then to find it, it says to see 32997. So in this case, it just happens to be right under it. And then you read down, you find code 32994. And that hashtag means that that code's out of order. So you can see 32998 is above it. So it didn't go in numerical sequence. Okay, it's out of order. Now in this case, they were all right next to each other. Sometimes it might be on a different page. So as long as you know where to find it, like, it's not that confusing, but I mean, it can be if it's on a different page. So you just have to look to find, to find your code if that's the one you're looking for. All right, so that's that for that section. Okay, now we're in the cardiovascular section of CPT. Okay, this chapter is, I think it's the most confusing part of CPT, but maybe you guys don't. I think it's very confusing. There's a lot of different codes in this section. Okay, as you can see. All right, now the CPC exam, I believe, has 6 questions per chapter. So there'll be 6 questions on the cardiovascular system on the exam. All right, so again, I'm just going to highlight the first couple of words. Of the main CPT codes. Okay, and I don't know why I don't know. It looks like I have some notes here from a while ago, but I'm just going to go back and do this the right way now. I'm just going to circle what's in parentheses. And then just link the codes together that go together. Okay. All right, so that was page 239. Okay, pages 240 and 241, it gives more information about pacemakers and pacemaker, coding. Okay, I have these highlighted because I go over this with my students in my class a little bit. So this is why my book looks like this, but you can highlight it any way that you want, or you don't even have to highlight this section, but just make sure you take time to, read it and understand it. Okay, same for pages 242 and 243. Okay, this is just how I have this kind of color-coded a little bit. I don't really do this throughout the book, though, because you can if you want. But I have these kind of color-coded here. I have removal codes in yellow. Okay, I have codes for the insertion of pacemakers and the initial codes in pink, and then removal I highlighted in orange. Okay, again, this is something that I go over with my students in my class a little bit as a way to highlight the book. All right. It also gives directions on page 243 about single lead, dual lead, and multiple lead pacemaker. Okay, make sure you know the difference between those. Okay. All right. So now I'm on page 244. All right, I'm just going to highlight the first couple of words of each main CPT code. Okay, and then link the codes together that go together to get the full code description, and then go back and circle what's in parentheses. Okay, again, remember for the CPC exam, you don't have to memorize anything. Okay, you just have to be familiar with where things are in the book and, know where all the information is and, just know how to find it quickly. Okay, so that is why I recommend people, to people to tab their books, because it helps them just get through the book quicker. And that's important when you're taking the exam. Okay, now in real life coding, sometimes people ask me, do you have to use the book like this if you're coding in real life? And if you're coding in real life, you probably will have either an encoder, okay, which is an online program that, that will help you with coding, or you might have an electronic version of the book. Okay, I mean, that's not to say that you can't use the book. Okay, obviously you could definitely use the book. Okay, I still used the book a lot when I was auditing. All right, so you definitely have to understand the book and, understand why things are done a certain way and understand why you code a certain way. So that is why, you have to learn the books. And also for the CPC exam, as of right now, you have to use the books, okay? You can't use an electronic version of the books. Okay, I don't know if in the future, if they'll change that or not. Who knows? But right now, you still have to use coding books. Okay, so I'm just circling what's in parentheses. Okay, again, this is another one of those codes out of sequence, 33221, it's in red. It technically should be here, but it's not. Okay, it's in a different part of the book. And it tells you the range of where you will find it. Okay, it says code is out of numerical sequence C33212 to 33215. And that is where you will find that code, 33221. Okay, and in this case, it's actually on the page before it. So 33221 should be there, but it is not. It is on page 264, or 244. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's right here. Okay. Okay. Almost on this page. Okay, that's about all the time we have for highlighting. I will take a couple of more questions. Does anyone else have any questions about coding in general or about the CPC exam? Amy says, do you go over or teach leveling of E&M coding? I do in my coding course, yes. But I have not done a live or videos on EM coding because it is complicated. So, but I do teach it in my coding course. Okay, Lorena says, can you help understanding the tunnel and no tunneling? Okay, I think you're talking about the catheters. Okay, and there is information on that in the CPT book. Okay, but for right now, I'm just going to go over questions about just medical coding, like in general, or the CPC exam. Okay. Chelsea says, is the exam hard? Well, it depends on, your point of view. I mean, you have to get a 70% or higher to, pass the exam. And if you don't pass, you can retake it. Okay, so it's not like you only have one try. But, it really depends. I mean, it's not, I mean, it's like I don't want to say it's a standardized test because it's not, but I mean, there's multiple choice questions, but they are tricky. Okay, they are tricky questions. Okay, someone says, "Can I pay you to code my book?" No, that's something you have to do on your own. Okay, for you to learn it. Where would you recommend the practice exams? I recommend AAPC has practice tests. Okay, or I have an exam strategy workshop that I teach. It's a mini course all online that has practice questions. Okay, so either of those would be good, and I'm sure there's other places out there, but I'm not familiar with them though. Okay, Chelsea says you've taken 3 sets of boards and they're hard. Yeah, I mean these tests are hard. I mean they're meant to be. Okay, they're not meant to be super easy tests. Okay, but the more you prepare for it, the more you know familiarize yourself with the books, and if you have your books tabbed, if you highlight and you do practice questions, you study the guidelines, then you'll be okay. But you definitely do have to prepare. Okay, it's not one of the things that you can just wake up one day and just go take the exam. Okay, I recommend my students take at least 1 to 2 months after my course to take the CPC exam. Okay, Amy says AAPC is not as hard as AHEMA. I mean, yes and no. It really depends. AHEMA is more of inpatient coding, and inpatient coding is difficult, because there's more to code, and you'll be coding longer visits. They also use a different code set from outpatient coding, so it could be. Okay, someone says, Rose says, any tips to find a job after to take the exam? Is it very hard for beginners? Finding a job after, like I was saying earlier, you might have to start off in a position other than coding. That's not coding, such as someone who works denials, or who does billing, or even scheduling. Okay, there's lots of jobs in the revenue cycle that are not coding but are related to coding. So I always recommend that people start there. But you definitely could still look for coding jobs and apply to those. Part of that depends on where you live. Okay, but definitely look at other jobs in the revenue cycle. Okay, it's a good place to start and to work your way up to a coding position. Okay. I will take one more question. It says, how can subscribers watch the Coding Lives recordings? Okay, so I do record these lives, and I post the lives over on my YouTube channel. Okay, I record these. Okay, the subscriber live, I only did my first one tonight, and I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with that one yet, if you missed it. I don't know if TikTok will let me repost it in the subscriber part of where my videos are. I'm not sure. So I see that you're a subscriber. I'm not, if you missed it, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look into how I could get you to see that if you missed it, but I'll get back to you on that one. Okay. Someone says there are no jobs in this field. It's disheartening. That depends on where you live. Okay, there always are coding jobs, but like I was saying before, they're hard to get. Okay, there's always going to be a need for coders, because providers are not going to send out all their billing without a human person looking at it. So I don't know if you're trying to say that maybe it's AI doing the job, or maybe it's hard to get into, but I really don't think the field is going anywhere, so I still recommend it as a good field to get into. Okay. Bia says they never hire new coders. Okay, it depends. Okay, you got to remember that coders are in charge of, if you're a new coder and all of your claims go out incorrectly, the provider's not going to get paid. Okay, so there are jobs out there, but a lot of times they require experience. Okay. So like I was saying before, it might be something that you have to work your way up to get a coding position. Okay, but again, I still recommend it as a good field. It really just depends. I always recommend, do a job search. If you're someone out there who's on the fence about, becoming a coder or not, just get out there and start looking and see what it's like, see what it's like by you. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions? All right, guys. All right. The last question, how do you enter the work field as a new coder? Okay, same thing as I was saying earlier. You may have to start off in another position. If you're working for, a hospital, say, I would say, take a position at a hospital where you will, you might not be doing coding, but say you're working at a position there, you will see other jobs that are posted there, before the general public. Okay, but again, you have to be a little careful with that because not all hospitals do their own coding. Sometimes the people that do the coding are not employees of the hospital, so that kind of depends on where you live. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's about it for the time that we have tonight. Okay, if you think of any questions or anything else you want to ask me, you always feel free to email me. Okay, my email is lindsay@midnightmedicalcoding.com. All right, so you could reach out to me that way. The next time I will be live will be Monday at 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. for the highlighting of the CPT book live. If you're one of my subscribers, I will be live from 7 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. And we will be doing more practice coding questions. Okay, if you guys want to, join in on those practice questions, you'll have to subscribe, and you can find the link to that in my bio. All right, guys, have a good rest of the night. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.